Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So here we are for more mushrooms. We're still with this mushroom murder trial. What we're going to do in the morning or the afternoon or the evening or when this trial is finished. Might be Christmas by then, the way it's going on. I mean, it is going on and on and on. And the reason that it's taken so long, of course, is because Erin, I nearly said Erin Mushroom, Erin Patterson, who is the woman accused of triple murder and attempted murder. I mean, such serious charges. She decided, or she or her defence decided, don't know who made the decision for Erin to actually give evidence in her own defence, but she did. And that was 3 days ago. And she's still on the stand because, of course, her defence asked her many, many questions. And now she's being cross-examined. And because she volunteered to give her testimony, that means, the prosecution's having a field day with her testimony as well. So, I think this trial, because tomorrow there'll be one more day and then a half day on Friday. Will she have even finished being cross-examined by then? Then we've got to have there may be other witnesses that the defence call, maybe closing argument, before the jury actually goes off to make a verdict. So I think we've got at least the end of this week and into next week, haven't we, to go yet, if not more. So we're on day 3 of, is it the 3rd day of Erin's testimony? I've lost track. Anyway, it's day 30 of the trial in total. It's the 7th week. Feels like it's gone on forever because there's been so much expert testimony. Erin's children spoke by video, linked into their video interviews from when it all first happened. Erin's ex-husband, the survivor Ian Wilkinson, the mushroom experts, toxicology experts, intensive care experts. It's been full on, the testimony, and data experts, police experts, every expert you can imagine. And then you've got the flying instructor that Erin was taking her son for his flying lesson. You've got like incidental people, that anyone who had anything relevant to say has been called initially by the prosecution. The only witness that's been called by the defence so far is Erin Patterson herself, isn't it? So I want to say thank you to all of you that are interested in this case. We must not forget who this case is about. This is about Don Patterson, his wife Gail, Gail's sister Heather Wilkinson, and Ian Wilkinson, who was the only survivor from this lunch that they all went to, where this woman, Erin Patterson, made a spectacular Beef Wellington, delicious, apparently, that made them all ill, except Erin, of course, so she's claiming she was ill. But the other 4 were terribly ill. Like 3 died, and Ian Wilkinson, he survived. And her ex-husband, Simon, we mustn't call him her ex-husband. As far as she's concerned, he's still her husband. Her estranged husband, Simon, whose relatives those were, he was supposed to go to the lunch, but luckily for him, he did not turn up. And the prosecution are arguing that Erin deliberately poisoned these people with death cap mushrooms, these mushrooms that she foraged and dehydrated in a dehydrator similar to this, which originally she denied she'd ever been foraging or she'd ever had a dehydrator, which of course have all turned out to be complete lies now. She did go foraging and she did have a dehydrator. What she's trying to tell us now is she foraged or mushroomed often, not only for death cap mushrooms, but for all sorts of types of mushrooms. Anyway, what the prosecution is saying is that's a load of rubbish. This is Nanette Rogers, Dr. Nanette Rogers, the prosecution. This is Mr. Mandy, Colin Mandy. He's the defence attorney. This is the judge, Justice Beale. And yeah, that's where we are. So, there's a complete playlist of every day from day one of this trial in the description box of this video. If you want to have a binge watch right from the beginning, and then, the things I can't go through everything that's already happened because we're on the 30th day. I'll be here all day just giving you a recap. But if you want to know all the nitty gritty, so that you understand, because there'll be things that will come up here in this defence that if you haven't watched all the videos, you wouldn't know about what's happened so far. So if you want to catch up, the playlist is at the bottom here in the description box underneath this video. So where are we going to start? So first of all, thank you. I always start with my thank yous. I woke up this morning and I was sort of, as I woke up, number one son was just coming home. That's how it rolls in our house, thank God, because that's the only reason we can get on. We lead completely different lives. I'm getting up as he's coming in, and I'm going to bed as he's just waking up. Well, no, we don't wake up quite that late, but, before he's really getting himself together and starting his day, I'm ready for bed again then. So we don't have conflicts. But as I got up this morning, I was thinking, oh, gosh, because when I get up, and I don't want to sound pious when I say this, but this is just the truth. I like to get up and I like to pray. First of all, that's like what I like to do. Say some prayers for all sorts of things, just thank yous, mainly gratitude, for another day. And praying for problems to be resolved. I pray for all of you. I pray for all the victims, pray for families of victims, just trying to, it's like a prayer. I mean, I'm not there for an hour doing it. It's a quick prayer, but it's like I try and include what I can in it. And I didn't this morning. I forgot because just as I woke up, as I say, number one son rolled in through the door. So it just put me out of my routine a little bit. So I forgot why I started telling you this. So yeah, I did it later. So gratitude is important. So I like to start off, don't I, my videos, especially the lives. I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for caring about these victims. Let me put their little picture up at the top there. Because we've always got to keep in mind, 3 people died. 3 vulnerable people. They were vulnerable because they were invited to lunch to someone's house. They were delighted to be invited, especially Ian and Heather, who had never been invited to lunch at Erin's house before. They were delighted. They loved the meal. During the meal, Erin told them she had cancer, which she didn't. And they all prayed for her at the end. And these people were betrayed in the worst possible way by someone they knew, led into, just horrible, isn't it? Imagine, they're really excited about going to this lunch. And all the time she sat there and watched them eat these poisonous mushrooms and then watched them pray for her because she told them all she had cancer. Sorry, Erin, don't think there's any way back for you, but there you go. But allegedly, because she's not been proven guilty yet. So, we've got to say allegedly. But one thing we do know for sure about Erin is she is a liar. She is a liar. She's even admitted herself. She's told so many lies. Oh, my God. Anyway, so I want to thank you for caring about these victims. I want to thank you for watching my videos. I want to thank you for subscribing, for liking. I I want to thank you for special thanks, as I always say to my members. Thank you. Thank you to those of you who've bought me Ko-fis, sent me a super sticker, or done any of those things, positive things to help my channel. Hello, lovely lurkers. Hello, replay crew. Hola, Pedro. And I will, now I'm going into the chat, say hello to those of you who are brave enough to come into the chat. Let me take that banner off now. So, hi, David. Hola, David. Hi, David. Look, I've got Spanish in my head now. That's your fault, Pedro. Hi, David. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Bluebell. Yeah, do you think they will keep her on the stand as long as possible? What would that, why? I mean, I'm not saying they won't, but the thing is, the more lies she tells, the better, isn't it? I mean, I think this is the third day now that she's been on the stand. She's got a long way to go. Hi, Lone Slow. Hi, Sean. Yeah. Hi, Lieza. Yeah, I've got the siren ready. Yeah, lots of lies again. I mean, I've just briefly looked through what happened. Lots of lies already. Yeah. Hola, Vicky Marie, fan club official. Hi, Janet. Thank you so much, Janet. Okay, sorry, Vicky Marie. I don't get, it's not, we're talking about this case, so I don't get into personal things. So, but thank you for watching. So, now I thought we'd start off with this video, actually, which is a video from the project, which is, it's an Australian sort of news thing, but they're ending soon, unfortunately, so I believe. But I like the project. They do some good videos, so let me see where it is. Of course, I've probably lost it now. Normally do, don't. Let me put some windows down already. Put the windows down that I don't need. Ooh. Right, there it is. There it is. Let's just have a look at this video to start. This might give us a little reminder of what's happened so far.
And accused triple murderer Erin Patterson took the stand today to tell the jury, in her own words, her own story.
After watching on for 5 weeks, wearing a long-sleeved black and white paisley shirt and dark pants, Erin Patterson entered the witness box. Patterson told the court about her life in the month leading up to the fatal lunch.
My children had just recently settled into a new school. I had changed schools at the start of that term.
The court heard that Patterson was accepted into a Bachelor of Nursing and Midwifery.
I mean, I found this chilling when this happened, when she said that she's been accepted into a nursing and midwifery school. She was going to train to be a nurse and a midwife at 50. And it just gave me Bev Allitt vibes. Do you imagine her in control of people's lives? I'm sorry, maybe, that's out of order to say that. That's just the feeling I get from Erin. I wouldn't want to see her leering over me when I was ill, that's for sure. A few mushrooms in her pocket.
At the beginning of 2023, but had deferred due to her daughter's health.
We had it under control by the middle of 2023, so I was planning to take that placement at the start of 2024.
Patterson recounted her struggles with her own mental health.
I mean, David, I know. I mean, really, why would she want to train? You know, I'm not being funny, but really at 50 to train to be a nurse and a midwife, these are difficult jobs. You know, I said earlier in another video, I had a student who was a midwife. She retired at 50 because it was such an exhausting job. It's a very physical job. You know, you just won't believe it's very stressful. You can imagine. Why would Erin want to do that? This is a woman who hasn't worked for a long time. I know she's had jobs and she's probably had responsible jobs. And she's intelligent. I think she is intelligent. She's not as intelligent as she thinks she is, but she's intelligent. But why would, oh my God, I just think there's something in that. There's a reason for that.
I'd been fighting a never-ending battle of low self-esteem most of my adult life.
Her testimony then turned to her relationship with her in-laws.
I had felt for some months that my relationship with the wider Patterson family, particularly Don and Gail, had a bit more distance or space put between us. We saw each other less. Perhaps I wasn't being invited to so many things.
You know, this is the crux of it all. Erin Patterson had her nose pushed right out of joint because she'd been the queen bee in that family, flashing her money around, borrowing people money or lending people money, all that. And then it felt like the distance was opening up. She likes to be in control. That's why she got angry with this family, because she felt like they didn't give her the respect that she thought she was due. That's, again, only my opinion. That's what I think.
And her relationship with her estranged husband, Simon. The court heard they separated several times between 2009 and 2015.
We just couldn't communicate well when we disagreed about something. We could never communicate in a way that would make each of us feel heard and understood.
Erin Patterson is expected to continue her testimony tomorrow. She has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
Erin Pearson is the Age's crime and justice reporter.
So, yes, she has pled not guilty. She's not been found guilty yet, has she? Gosh, you know, I just don't know how the jury is going to look on all this.
And she was in the Morwell court once again today. Erin, this is a big moment in the case. We should point out the accused doesn't have to give evidence. So what was the reaction in court like when it was announced that she...
Yeah, so she gave evidence by choice, either her choice or on the advice of her lawyer. She didn't have to give evidence. She could have just sat there and let the prosecution rest it. Now, had the prosecution done enough, you know, to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Erin had done these things, you know, I just feel like she opened it up because, of course, the prosecution could not question Erin. It could provide the witnesses to say, you know, whatever it wanted it to say, the experts, but it could not demand to question Erin. And by Erin appearing in court, appearing on the stand, she has given the prosecution this opening. And is it going to backfire on her?
You would take the stand?
That's right. After 20-something days of prosecution evidence, about 3 o'clock today, one of the Crown prosecutors stood up and said, finally, we close our case. And Defence Barrister Colin Mandy stood up and said, I call Erin Patterson. There wasn't a huge reaction in the room, but you could have heard a pin drop. Everybody was sort of looking around at one another. It was another packed day in the courtroom, not a spare seat to be seen. But
hi, Anna. Thanks for watching.
Nobody dared make a sound at that point. Everybody was just waiting in anticipation for the accused to take to the stand.
Yeah.
So it was a shock when Mr. Mandy just announced, yes, I call Erin to the stand, Erin Patterson to the stand. But like this lady is saying, there wasn't a great big stir, but she said you could hear a pin drop. I bet there was a sharp intake of breath. There must have been. Everyone's been speculating, will she or won't she? And when Mr. Mandy stood up and said that, I call Erin Patterson to the stand, it was like, must have been a shock.
The jury hasn't heard Erin speak so far, but how did Erin appear during her time on the witness stand?
Yeah, so she sat in the witness box on like an office chair that faces directly to the jury, with her defence barrister in the middle, turned to his left and firing questions at her from that direction. She was incredibly calm and collected in her evidence. She would often pause before answering. She got a little bit emotional when she was speaking about the birth of her son and about the way that they were parenting her and Simon Patterson after they separated. But she would pause, as I said before.
Yeah, the times when Erin does get emotional, she doesn't get emotional. She's very calm most of the time, even when she's talking about all these dead people. But the times when she does genuinely get emotional, I think, is when she talks about her children. You know, I expect she does love her children, at least at the moment while they're still young. Honestly, you just think, you know, is she going to plan on getting rid of them when they get older and get a bit more irritating?
For answering a lot of questions, you could see her hands and her fingers intertwined, and when she would reach for a cup of water, there was a slight shake there. She was on the stand for less than an hour and is expected to continue giving her evidence tomorrow.
Anyone following this was hanging on every word, so Erin started talking about personal history. Did we get a lot of detail?
Yeah, so the defence really started asking questions about what was life like for Erin Patterson in July of 2023 and the months leading up to the fatal lunch. And she explained that her relationship with Simon had become less friendly and their communications were sort of more structured, and she felt that they'd lost that friendship. But she also explained that she felt like she was being perhaps invited to less family events. She felt that there was a degree of separation forming.
Yeah, she felt she wasn't getting invited to as many family things as she had been, but don't forget they were separated. But she didn't like it as well when he put that he was separated on his tax form. You know, there were a few, even though she feels like she didn't want him, she didn't want Simon particularly. But she didn't like it when he said he was separated on his tax form.
Between her and her in-laws, Don and Gail Patterson. And then she explained that she was at the time also having some self-esteem issues. She was planning some weight loss surgery, and her children had also recently moved into a new school and were settling in there. So she was taken through what was going on in 2023 for her. And then the questioning switched to a bit of a timeline. She was asked when she first met Simon Patterson, when they got engaged and got married, and she was explaining, guys, that she was an atheist at the time, but it was during one visit to the Corumburra Church, the Baptist church there, that she said she had a bit of a spiritual experience and things changed, and she too, along with her husband, became Christian.
Wow. Okay. Also, what about Ian Wilkinson and the extended Patterson family? How were they during Erin's testimony?
Yeah, there was about a dozen of them seated in the courtroom.
Oh, this is interesting because she's going to say what Ian is the only survivor, of course, isn't he? Ian Wilkinson, and she's going to say what his reaction has been. Imagine having to sit through this court case. Don't forget Erin. She has disputed the evidence that he gave, like about the plates and about the fact that Erin said she had cancer. Erin saying, no, I didn't serve on grey plates. No, I didn't say I had cancer. She's disputing the evidence of someone who survived this meal. She's calling him a liar, basically. She's not saying, no, he's a liar, but she's saying, no, that's not true, which is more or less the same thing. So he's had to sit through this. Don't forget, his wife is dead because of whatever happened. And he's lucky that he's not dead. And there's Erin challenging him. You know, she really is a piece of work, this woman, I think. An absolute piece of work. Hi, Sugar Cat. Just hi, Janet. I think I said hello to Anna. Just making sure I've said hello to everyone. Okay, let's have a look.
Room today. They were seated on the opposite side of the courtroom to where Erin Patterson was.
So this is Ian Wilkinson, looking very healthy, very chipper. So it's good that he's had a liver transplant. He does look like he has recovered. I mean, I think he's 70, isn't he? Or is he 66? You know, he's not a young man. But he looks well enough. So he's obviously recovered. Thank God for that.
was giving her evidence. Probably about half of them stared down to the ground or straight ahead for a majority of the evidence, not turning to look at the accused woman as she spoke, whereas others were quite consistent in watching what she had to say. As you mentioned, Ian Wilkinson was also present, seated in the back room, and he sat with his arms crossed for much of her evidence. We could see him staring straight ahead for a majority of the afternoon. I only saw him glance at the accused maybe once or twice.
So according to this lady, Ian only glanced at the accused maybe once or twice. He's probably got to control himself because I expect inside he's probably seething, isn't he? But he's just trying to control it. But he's turned up every day. He's sat through all the crap that she's talking, disputing not only his account of everything, but you'll see again in the evidence from yesterday yesterday in Australia, she disputes everything that other people say. She's the one who's telling the truth, even though she's lied so many times. According to her, she's telling the truth now. You've got to take account of what she's saying. Everybody else is mistaken.
Erin, you mentioned she's going to continue to take the stand tomorrow. They're going through in a lot of detail. We're not even really up to the fateful events of that day. How long do you think that Erin Patterson could be on the stand here?
I think that's anybody's guess. We know that when an accused takes to the witness stand, that it's their defence barrister that asks the questions first. And once those questions are finished, the prosecution then have an opportunity to cross-examine her. I guess we wait and see what the next few days will look like.
All right. Erin, thank you so much.
Well, that's what we're finding out. So we've had 3 days now of Erin's cross-examination. I think that's been... I'm losing track of the days because I couldn't believe it was day 30. I was thinking, what day are we on? Anyway, let's go now to the... we've been following the ABC Live blog to find out what's... we're going to go through the whole shebang of what happened... Erin's testimony yesterday, if you like. It's not yesterday, anyway, today's testimony, which of course in Australia it's evening time now, but this is what happened today, and that's what we're going to go through. So are you ready? Are you ready? So it's the 30th day of court proceedings in Erin Patterson's triple murder trial in Morwell. Yesterday, the prosecution continued their cross-examination of Miss Patterson. Today is her 7th day giving evidence in the witness box. Seventh day of giving evidence. Yeah, because first of all, of course, she was giving evidence to the defence. So there's just a quick recap of Tuesday. Tensions appeared to flare at times while Crown Prosecutor Nanette Rogers questioned Erin Patterson. Now, I don't know if you watched this video with me or if you want to catch it up. Remember how supercilious she was, how leery she was, picking up the prosecution lawyer. She reminds me of Laurie Daybell as well. It's like this sort of, I'm much cleverer than you, how dare you question me? Now, she is an intelligent woman, Erin. Remember, her Facebook friends describe her as super sleuth. And occasionally she does say things to Nanette and she's right in what she says. But what that proves to me is she is spot on. She all this, I don't know, I don't remember. She remembers everything. There's nothing she's forgotten. When Erin says, I don't know, or I can't be sure, I've forgotten, it's because she doesn't want to give the answer or the answer doesn't suit her. When it's something that's in her favour, she's straight there saying what the truth is. Straight there. She knows everything that happened. She hasn't forgotten anything, not one conversation, nothing. That's just her stock answer when she feels like it won't look good on her. So during her evidence, she disputed evidence given by a number of witnesses during the trial, including her estranged husband, Simon Patterson, and medical professionals who treated her after the lunch. So as I say, if you want to catch up, you can go on the, if you haven't seen the previous evidence. So remember a couple of things that she disputed yesterday. The plates. Yeah, she denied different colour plates. She even disputed her son's police interview, where he said he got up in the morning, she was drinking coffee. She said she wasn't drinking coffee. She was drinking ginger tea in a coffee cup because she did it, because she's supposed to have a bad tummy, remember, when she woke up the next morning. Also, she disputed that the fact that the doctor at the hospital said he warned her children's lives were at risk and had left voicemails on the phone, which she did not reply to. And she said she did try to respond twice. All lies, these. I'm going to get my siren out in a minute. She also disputed evidence given by child protection worker Katrina Cripps. She said Miss Patterson had stayed in the car after dropping her friends home after the lunch because she believed sitting could act as a cork and prevent an accident. But she said it was possible, she said that, but she believed it was in relation to a trip to Tyre the following day. So 4 times she's disputed evidence that other people gave. So the accused, Erin Patterson, is back in the witness box wearing a pink button-up shirt. In a change to the past few days of her evidence, the public is not packed to capacity today. That's unusual, isn't it? Maybe they're just sick of her lies. So anyway, are we all ready? I'll just make sure you're all okay. Hi, Angel. Hi, Joanne. Okay, let's get going. So we're taken to conversation about the Beef Wellington. Crown Prosecutor Nanette Rogers picks up her cross-examination by asking Erin Patterson about messages sent to Facebook friends about preparing the Beef Wellington lunch at the centre of the trial. Dr. Rogers summarises that friends previously told the court Miss Patterson had sought tips on avoiding a soggy beef Wellington and the kind of cut of meat that she was planning to use. The prosecutor suggests that Miss Patterson's explanation of using individual eye fillets because she couldn't find a whole large eye fillet was not true. And Dr. Rogers said, "You chose, I suggest, individual portions of eye fillet because you wanted to serve individual portions of beef Wellington." So don't forget, let's have a look at a beef Wellington, just in case anyone doesn't know what a beef Wellington looks like, because I've never eaten one actually, to be honest, but I knew what they were, like what they look like. So really, basically it's beef, mushroom paste around it. That's where supposedly, allegedly, the death cap mushrooms were. And then this lovely pastry around it. I mean, it looks lovely, doesn't it? And then you slice it. But Erin made individual ones, not one big one like that. She made 5 individual beef Wellingtons. Well, she made 6 actually, because she made an extra one for Simon, her husband, estranged husband, who was supposed to be going. So allegedly, according to Ian, the guy who was there at the lunch, she made 5 individual ones. The 4 guests were on grey plates, and Erin's was on a smaller, orangey coloured plate. But Erin disputes that, of course. So Okay. So Dr. Rogers notes that Miss Patterson did not tell her friends about the inclusion of dried or foraged mushrooms in the meal. I didn't tell them everything I did with every meal that I prepared in my house, Miss Patterson says. So this is another example of her being Larry, isn't it? I didn't tell them everything I did with every meal that I prepared in my house. So Dr. Rogers says, I suggest your only plan for the Beef Wellington was to ensure that the death cap mushrooms were added. Correct or incorrect? Dr. Rogers asks. Incorrect, Miss Patterson replies. So Dr. Rogers now moves to the recipe tin eats method that Miss Patterson has told the court that she followed. The court is shown Nagi Mayesh's dinner cookbook, and the Beef Wellington recipe is on page 252. The prosecutor again notes that Miss Patterson departed from the recipe by creating individual Wellingtons rather than a log, and again asserts this method was used to allow Miss Patterson to add death caps to the Wellingtons of her guests, but not her own. And Miss Patterson says this is incorrect. So Dr. Rogers puts to Miss Patterson that she never mentioned to the lunch guests that the Beef Wellingtons contained dried mushrooms from an Asian grocer. We didn't discuss any of the ingredients, Miss Patterson says. And the questioning then turns to accounts the accused gave about the origins of the mushrooms, including telling Leongatha Hospital staff that the mushrooms were partly from Woolworths in Leongatha and partly from an Asian grocer in the Oakley area in Melbourne's southeast. And Dr. Rogers puts to Miss Patterson that she did not mention the Asian grocer to the first doctor she spoke to, the Monday after the lunch, Chris Webster, but she did mention it to a doctor she spoke to several hours later. And the prosecutor suggests this was because Miss Patterson had had some time to come up with a story. And Miss Patterson says that's incorrect. Right, I haven't put the siren on yet because I'm waiting for one where she admits she told a lie. Dr. Rogers goes through the evidence from several medical professionals who recounted that in the days after the meal, they spoke to Miss Patterson in an effort to identify the origins of the ingredients. Miss Patterson told them she'd bought dried mushrooms from an Asian grocer in the Oakley area in Melbourne's southeast. The prosecutor recounts how Miss Patterson told one of the doctors she no longer had the packaging to help narrow down the search. And Dr. Rogers says, I suggest that was an untruth as well. And incorrect, Miss Patterson responds. Throughout the steady stream of questioning from Nanette Rogers, Erin Patterson is holding her glasses in her lap. Her gaze is focused on Dr. Rogers. Her voice remains level with each response, and she's blinking rapidly. You know, that blinking rapidly, that's because she's thinking about what she's going to say next. Thing is, if you're telling the truth, you don't have to think about it, do you? Tell the truth, and you don't have to think about what you're saying, do you? So... okay, let's carry on. Hang on one sec. I'm going to put my banner on. Every now and again, just like to put my banner on to remind people to subscribe, etc. So, the prosecutor notes one of the doctors, Rhonda Stewart, previously told the court that Miss Patterson told her the store was either in Oakley or Glen Waverley, and she might recognise it if she drove past it. But Miss Patterson says she doesn't remember any conversation with Professor Stewart. See, she doesn't remember so much that she doesn't remember when it doesn't suit her. But when there's something, but she's like a laser beam focus, clicking in on things that maybe Nanette, the prosecutor, if she says something wrong or something, she's straight there. She remembers everything. So Nanette Rogers says, I suggest it is an untruth when you say you have no memory of the conversation with Professor Stewart. I suggest that you lied to her about the Asian food shop. But of course you disagree with that, Dr. Rogers says. Correct, Miss Patterson responds. So the prosecutor then takes the accused to evidence previously given by health official. Don't forget, everybody's mistaken. This is the thing. All right, somebody could be mistaken. Maybe Ian was mistaken. Do you think he was? I personally don't think he was. Let's say Ian was mistaken with the plates or whatever. Is he also mistaken about her saying she had cancer? And then are all these other people, including her own children, mistaken? There's about 10 different people that, according to Erin, are mistaken. But she's not, even though she admits that she lied before, but she's telling the truth now, and all those other people are mistaken. So this is Sally Ann Atkinson. I had a photo of her. I might still have it. Let's have a look. Yeah, exactly, Angel. I think she might have a little touch of the old dementia. Or it feels that way. But obviously she hasn't, because basically it's only when it suits her, isn't it? She can remember when she wants to. So this is Sally Ann Atkinson. This is a photo of her, who they're talking about at the moment. Let me just take the banner off a minute. And then, I wanted to actually, somebody sent me on Facebook. I meant to show this earlier. Look, can you see these? These are solar button mushrooms. They're solar button mushrooms that somebody saw in one of their garden centres. And they sent me a picture of it on Facebook. They're only $4.90. If I was in the UK, I would definitely buy one. Solar button mushrooms. You could put them all around your garden, couldn't you? So thank you to that person. If they're watching, they know who they are. Sent me this photo because it made them smile. And they sent me the photo to make me smile as well. So, yeah, go down your local garden centre. You might be able to find some solar button mushrooms. As long as they're not death cap mushrooms. Funny. I'd love one for my desk. Yeah, they're nice, aren't they, actually? They are quite nice. So, Sally Ann Atkinson, she was leading the public health investigation into the death cap poisoning amid fears toxic mushrooms were in the Victorian supply chain. So I think Erin, she just didn't realise, did she? Where 4 people are poisoned with death cap mushrooms, and Erin's saying that she bought them from some grocery shop, they've got to investigate it. They didn't know. Would there be loads of people out there that were at risk of dying? What did Erin just completely, when Erin said that first time, when someone asked her where she got the mushrooms from, and she just blurted it out, an Asian grocery store. She didn't think that out properly, because once she'd said that, the actual health officials, they're obliged to find out where these mushrooms come from. She's saying she just bought them in an Asian grocery store. Loads of people could have bought them. Loads of people could end up dying. So I think Erin completely misjudged there, didn't she, by saying that in the first place. I bet she regretted that. Because if she would have said, there were mushrooms that I found at the bottom of my garden or something, or, just found while I was out walking, and admitted that she'd foraged them, wouldn't have caused this great big health fear. So you recognise that this was being treated as a public health emergency, didn't you? Dr. Rogers asked. She realised later, of course. Miss Atkinson previously told the court that the listing of possible suburbs where dried mushrooms were purchased from an Asian grocer given by Miss Patterson changed during conversations, initially including Mount Waverley before swapping to Glen Waverley. Yeah, because that was the other thing, because not only she could not remember which Asian supermarket it was, according to her, she couldn't even remember what area it was in. And, but Miss Atkinson, I think we've got to have the siren here because this is a lie. Miss Patterson tells the court she believes Miss Atkinson was mistaken about that. So here's another one, mistaken. They're all mistaken. You know, hi, Sean. They're all mistaken, you know, just ridiculous. Let's get up the... Soon as she says that somebody is mistaken, that basically is a lie, isn't it? It's got to be a lie. They can't all be mistaken, Erin. Hope the judge, I'm sure they are, the jury, then the jury are hearing it. Well, they're actually seeing her speak. I wonder how she's coming over, because we know how she's coming over to us, but maybe she's coming over differently in real life. You know, maybe, I don't know. So it's possible. Where are we now? In Dr. Rogers notes that Miss Atkinson previously told the court Miss Patterson had told her the dried mushrooms from the Asian grocer smelled funny when she brought them in April, so she put them into a container before using them months later in the Beef Wellington. So remember, she said she'd bought them in April. She was going to put them in a carbonara, but when she opened the packet, it smelt so strongly, she thought it'd be too strong for the carbonara, but she thought they'd be perfect for the Beef Wellington. So you agree you did not put any mushrooms from the Asian grocery store into your dehydrator? Dr. Rogers asked. I think I did at one point. I remember after using the dehydrator quite a few times and noticing how crisp things were when they came out after quite a number of hours. I remember feeling the mushrooms in the Tupperware container, and they weren't like that. They were quite rubbery. So I whacked them in the dehydrator for a couple of hours. So don't forget, originally she told the police she didn't even have a dehydrator. She said she did it just the once, sometime after buying them. And let's just have a little reminder that she told her Facebook friends she'd been putting mushrooms in everything since she bought this dehydrator. She dried out mushrooms. She was even putting them in her children's chocolate brownies. Not death cap mushrooms, of course, but normal mushrooms. And that was her test, wasn't it? She was testing to see if they could be noticed. And she probably thought, gosh, if the children don't even notice mushrooms, ground mushrooms or whatever she does with them after they come out of the dehydrator, they don't even notice them in their chocolate brownies, then these people are not going to notice them in their Beef Wellington. She said Beef Wellington is the perfect dish for pungent mushrooms. And Miss Patterson agrees that she had told Miss Atkinson the dried mushrooms from an Asian grocer were strong smelling and she avoided using them initially. Dr. Rogers puts to her that if they were overpowering, surely you would have been worried about putting them in the Beef Wellington. No, I didn't think that. I thought it was the perfect dish for them, she says. Dr. Rogers puts to Miss Patterson that she never bought those dried mushrooms she described to people from an Asian grocer, and Miss Patterson disagrees. That's got to be another lie again, isn't it? maybe that's going to be another issue, and that's another lie. Definitely another lie. Yeah, I'd be annoyed as well, Angel. Imagine finding out someone's been putting stuff in your food, whatever it is, even if it's not poisonous. That's almost like an infringement of your human rights, isn't it? It's like giving you something without permission. You know, it's if you give someone a chocolate brownie and you say, "Oh, by the way, I'm just practicing to see how well this dehydrator works. Can you taste the mushrooms in this chocolate brownie?" That's different. You know, you decide then whether you want to take a bite of it or not. But when you're giving somebody something to eat, to take into their body, and you're not even asking if that's okay for them to, you know, if you're okay to do that, hiding it from them, you know, that's really it's very sinister, isn't it? Very, very sinister. So the questioning now turns to the kind of packaging that Miss Patterson described to Miss Atkinson. The court previously saw how Miss Atkinson had mocked up sandwich bags and labels and sent them to Miss Patterson in a bid to narrow down the type of packaging she was describing. So, you know, because Erin had said she couldn't remember what kind of packaging it was, so this poor woman who was doing the investigation, she had to send her all these different possibilities, you know, trying to find out. She was trying to trace where these mushrooms had come from just before anybody else died. And Erin was totally unhelpful. So you gave this detailed description of the packaging, even though you could not give any detail about the store you had bought the mushrooms from, Dr. Rogers says. You described the packaging in this way because you wanted it to sound like they were not commercially provided mushrooms. And Miss Patterson says that's incorrect. Dr. Rogers suggests Miss Patterson lied about moving the mushrooms into a Tupperware container to mask the fact there was never packaging for the mushrooms because the ones she described as bought from an Asian grocer did not exist. And Miss Patterson once again says, that's incorrect. Let's have a siren. 2 there because there were 2 lies. Oh, sorry, it's gone on. Lie after lie after lie, liar, pants on fire. Anything you can think of to talk about lies you could apply to Erin. So Dr. Rogers then suggests during her conversations with the public health official, Miss Patterson changed her story again. This time around the weight of the dried mushrooms she was telling them she'd bought from an Asian grocer. What did I change? Miss Patterson says. You changed the details of what you had previously told Sally Ann Atkinson about the weight and added more detail. Correct or incorrect? I clarified. So this is her word salad now. So what she does is she didn't change them. She clarified. This is what I mean. She lasers in on things. She can appear vague when she wants to appear vague, when that suits her to appear vague. And then when she wants to be laser clear to clarify, she does that, but she, you know, basically her clarified here means lied. I think I made it clear at all times that I really wasn't sure, but I was trying to be helpful. So I think I made it clear at all times that I really wasn't sure, but I was trying to be helpful. What does that even mean, Erin? What does it even mean? God. So Dr. Rogers moves through more parts of Miss Atkinson's evidence about changing details from Miss Patterson about her purchase from an Asian grocer. The court is shown a map of the suburbs in the Monash Council area, which includes all of the suburbs where Miss Patterson says she bought the dried mushrooms. Dr. Rogers then recaps that Miss Patterson had worked for the Monash Council and would be familiar with the suburbs and locations involved, but she said she couldn't identify the store where she'd bought the mushrooms. The Asian grocer story was a deliberate lie, Dr. Rogers suggests. Incorrect, Miss Patterson says. What a liar. During one point, so this is an example of how Erin really, she is spot on things. She does remember everything, and I think this proves it. During one point in the evidence, Dr. Rogers tells the court that Miss Patterson and the children would sometimes stay at an apartment in Mount Waverley. And Erin says, it's probably irrelevant, but it was a house, not an apartment. So she wants to be absolutely certain about some things. That this kind of exchange is playing out a fair bit during the cross-examination. Miss Patterson is frequently moving to correct and clarify details in the prosecutor's questioning when she identifies ambiguity or an inaccuracy. But she is not supposed to really remember a lot of things. But, you know, when it's something that suits her, she points it right out. You know, and it's fair enough. It was a house, not an apartment. But to me, this just proves that Erin is 100% focused on the evidence that she's given. It's not true that she's not sure or she doesn't remember things. She does, but she only picks up on it when it suits her. When it suits her to be vague, then she says, oh, sorry, I don't know. You know, so she definitely, to me, shows when she does those things, is she shows just how, you know, what a liar she is, or how it's not true that she doesn't remember things. So the prosecution alleges that the Asian grocer lie sent health officials on a wild goose chase. She puts to Miss Patterson that contrary to her account in a police interview a week after the lunch, she had not been very, very helpful, that's what she claimed, to the health department as they investigated the origins of the death cap mushrooms. In fact, you sent them on a wild goose chase, trying to locate this Asian grocer. You did not want to be pressed for details about the Asian grocery store. You lied about the source of the death cap mushrooms because you knew you were guilty of deliberately poisoning your 4 relatives. And Miss Patterson rejects those assertions. So they have a break then. Oh, we're only in the morning bit. So they have a break, the trial resumes, and Dr. Rogers moves to Miss Patterson's assertion that she fed her children leftover meat from one of the Beef Wellingtons prepared for the lunch at the centre of the trial. Miss Patterson puts her glasses on to watch the screen before her as she's taken to a transcript of her son's police interview. Now, this is another thing now. She disputes what her own children say. The prosecutor notes that Miss Patterson's son told the police that his mum had told him their Sunday dinner had been made with leftovers from the lunch held the day before. Miss Patterson's daughter said the same thing to police. I only remember telling the kids on the Sunday that it was leftovers. I don't remember telling them anything about it being lunch leftovers. So the boy has said his mum told him that their Sunday dinner had been made with leftovers from the lunch held the day before. That's what her son said. How would he even remember that? He's 13 years old. You know, how would he say that if it wasn't what they said. Do you know what I mean? It's like he said specifically she said that, but she said, oh no, I only remember telling the kids it was leftovers. I don't remember them telling them anything about it being lunch leftovers. Lies. Let's get the siren on. I need some more lie signals, I think. Definitely need some more lie signals. What I need is a Pinocchio where the nose comes out. That's what I need as something to put on while I'm talking about Erin and other people. You know, because quite often on these true crime stories, people tell lies, don't they? Pretty obvious lies, to be honest, quite often. So, yeah, that's something that I need to work on. A Pinocchio button. Right, going back. So she even disputes what her own kids say. So Miss Patterson recalls being told by medical staff the Monday after the lunch that her children needed to be tested if they'd eaten leftovers. And she agrees. She probably said words to the effect of, is it really necessary? Right, so let's take this on board. Let's think about this. You're at the hospital. Your 3 relatives that you invited to lunch. I mean, first and foremost, the fact that you'd cook their lunch, you'd be absolutely hysterical, wouldn't you, that something had happened to them? You'd be trying your very best to find out what had happened, why this had happened. You know, she wasn't like that, was she? She's like quite ambivalent about it, really. So 3 of them are deathly ill. In fact, 4 of them, because Ian was at the time, although he recovered later, deathly ill. And the staff say, your children need to be tested because supposedly they've eaten the leftovers. And she says, is it really necessary? What? Is it really necessary? You'd be there with those kids marching them down to the hospital, demanding that they're tested immediately, because you wouldn't want your children to go through that. But she didn't care because she knew they had not had any death cap mushrooms. How could she possibly have known that? So she said, well, is it really necessary to bring the children to the hospital because they don't have symptoms? And as we all know, these symptoms develop late with these death cap mushrooms. If they ate the death cap mushrooms on the Sunday, it could have been the Monday evening before they developed symptoms. And she didn't think they'd eaten any mushrooms because she'd removed them from the meat. Well, she'd only scraped them off. So there's quite likely that there'd be some remnants left. And Dr. Rogers puts to her, it's not credible that if you thought genuinely your children had eaten a potentially fatal poison, you'd be worried or stressed about pulling them out of school. So, but Erin's still arguing back about it. Do you know what I mean? She's still being leery about it. The issue was mushrooms and they had not eaten the mushrooms. Clever arse says, I suggest that you would not have wanted them to have immediate medical attention. You would have wanted them to have immediate medical attention, notwithstanding on your claim they hadn't eaten the mushrooms. I wanted to understand the concern and the risk to them, Miss Patterson says. And Dr. Rogers asked Miss Patterson if she loved her kids. I still love them, she says. That's a weird thing to say as well. So Miss Patterson agrees. She asked the doctor at Leongatha Hospital if there was a blood test to detect the death cap toxin in people. I remember asking, is there not a blood test you can do to find out if death cap mushrooms are the toxin that we've ingested? And I remember her saying something along the lines of, there is a blood test, but it's not going to give us an answer for days. So we're treating for the worst case scenario. That's the gist of what I remember from that conversation, Erin said. And Dr. Rogers suggests that this was not asked out of concern, but because she wanted to know if a test could detect the death cap toxin in her lunch guests. Yeah, more likely. She also asserts that Miss Patterson was initially reluctant to have her children assessed because she knew they had not eaten leftovers from the contaminated lunch and their lives were not at risk. Incorrect, Miss Patterson says. Just come back, see you're all okay. I'm going to take that banner off again now. She's cocky, isn't she? So cocky. That I hope that's coming over to the jury. I'm sure it is, because it's coming over to us, so I'm sure it's coming over to the jury. So Miss Patterson is questioned over why she served leftovers from the lunch to her children. Yeah, because bear in mind, when she gave her children those leftovers, the lunch guests were already ill. So you wouldn't just, well, you'd be, to me, I'd be down the hospital with those leftovers and saying, look, these are the leftovers. You won't be feeding your children with them. You won't feed your dogs with them, would you? And Dr. Rogers said, I suggest you tell well over a dozen people, including your son and daughter, health professionals, child protection workers, police, and a friend, that you had fed your children the same meal you had served at lunch. And Miss Patterson said, I was pretty clear that it was the meal, minus the mushrooms and the pastry. Even though they're deathly ill in hospital, she still gave it her kids. Come on. Dr. Rogers said, but isn't it the fact that on Sunday, the 30th of July, you found out that at least Don and Gail were unwell? And Miss Patterson said, yes, I did find out about that. And Dr. Rogers says, so why did you proceed to feed the same meal to your children when you knew or suspected that the meal that you'd served had made them ill? And she said, I didn't know or suspect that. Lies. Come on, where's the said she didn't suspect that, even though they're in hospital, deathly ill. God, how long have we got? How many more days have we got to listen to all this crap from Erin? The court is then shown a transcript of Miss Patterson's son's interview, where he told police that Miss Patterson told him his grandparents were unwell, and she suspected it might have been the Saturday lunch. She says, I think he was confused. I didn't say that to him on the Sunday, and it's not clear when he's saying that I said that to him. Oh my, it's like, yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but load of rubbish, word salad, I'm a liar. She says, adding that there were further conversations at hospital on the matter. So Dr. Rogers says, so is it your evidence that he's wrong about that aspect of his evidence? And she says, no, I think that it's not clear from his evidence when he's saying, I said that to him. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Means nothing. Just, she absolutely, I think what she's trying to do is confuse everybody. Do you think she'll just, is the purpose of putting her in the defence stand that she's just going to, kill people with boredom or, just confuse people so much that they'll just, give up the will to live or something and find her not guilty? I just don't understand how she ever thought that this was going to be a good idea. But anyway, time will tell, though. The jury might look on it a different way. I could be completely wrong. So, yeah, no, I think that it's not clear from his evidence when he's saying I said that to him. Right? Oh, God, we're back on mobile phone data. Honest to God. Oh, if it wasn't for the fact these poor victims, they deserve their justice. And I said I would stay with this case till the end. Honest to God, you just think, here we go again. Dr. Rogers then pivots to asking Miss Patterson about mobile phone data from Miss Patterson's phone that suggested she went to Loch on April the 28th, 2023. Dr. Rogers' question identifies this date as a Monday. Now then, now listen to how good her memory really is, really, because Dr. Rogers, like me, I get confused with dates. Now, this is the first time she's got confused with a date, but she talks about it as a Monday. And Erin goes straight in there and says, I don't mean to be argumentative, but I think the 28th of April was a Friday. And it appears she's correct. So, you know what a good memory she's got, really. So all this about her forgetting things and not being sure, it was a long time ago. She was straight in on this. When Dr. Rogers said it was a Monday, Erin was straight there, say it was a Friday, 28th of April, 2023. Would you remember that it was a Friday? Over 2 years ago, and she remembers it was a Friday. And you know why she knows it was a Friday? Because she did go to Loch. That's how she remembers. So it appears she's correct. So the day is removed from the question about April the 28th. And Dr. Rogers suggests that Miss Patterson went to the site where... How did Erin remember that that was a Friday? Huh? So she might have maybe even Dr. Rogers, do you think she tried to trick her? Or maybe she genuinely thought it was a Monday? Or was she trying, and Erin just couldn't help having to be right, could she? She had to be right. So she was straight in there. Oh no, I think it was a Friday. I don't mean to be argumentative. How can she possibly remember it's a Friday when there's a million other things she doesn't remember? And I think she remembers because she remembers when she went and got these mushrooms. So Dr. Rogers suggests that she went to the site where the death cap mushrooms had been flagged by a user on iNaturalist and stayed there for an hour. But Miss Patterson disputes this. So she disputes she went there, but she remembers the day. Dr. Rogers suggests that Miss Patterson found death cap mushrooms in Loch on April the 28th, 2023, and within 2 hours went to a homeware store to buy a dehydrator. Miss Patterson says the only part that's true is the purchase of the dehydrator occurred on that day. So she went, it looks like she was in the area where the mushrooms were. Then she went to the homeware store to buy a dehydrator. So what the prosecution are trying to say is because she found the death cap mushrooms, then she wanted a dehydrator to sort them out, didn't it? To dehydrate them. And let's not forget, originally she told the police that she'd never had a dehydrator. But I think, what do you think? I think the date is significant there. Don't you think? How did she remember that that was a Friday? You know, would you, I mean, God, if you said to me what day was the 11th of May, that's only a month ago, I wouldn't know what day it is without looking at a calendar. How did she know? How did she know? And then a couple of hours after, she admits that a couple of hours after that, she went to the homeware store to buy a dehydrator. And the only reason she can't refute that is because it will be on her card. There'd be proof of her buying it. I think she's really sort of dropped herself in there. She should have never challenged the prosecution on that, because her challenging them means that now the jury know that she does remember things. Anyway, the prosecutor then puts to Miss Patterson that further mobile phone tower data suggests she went to the Loch Township on the morning of May the 22nd, 2023. It looks like I did do that. Yes, Miss Patterson says. But she disagrees that she went to the reserve with the purpose of finding death cap mushrooms at the location previously uploaded. To the iNaturalist site. And on the same day, expert analysis of mobile phone data suggested that Miss Patterson's phone was in the Outram area just before midday. But Miss Patterson says she didn't do that. Where's me lie thing? Where's me lie? Where's me lie thing? Thank you, Andy. Oh, there is no Vicky Marie fan club. That's just a subtle troll, I think. But he's in timeout now. But maybe we should create one. Maybe we should create a real Vicky Marie. I think I know who it is, but I think they're just taking the mickey. So I'm just ignoring them. But thank you for that, Andy. I appreciate that. And yeah, maybe we should start a fan club. Oh, thank you so much. Anyway, so I'm going to put the lie siren on, not for you, Andy, or not for anyone else, only for Erin, of course. So, yeah, thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, all my fans, I need to create a real Vicky Marie fan club. Oh dear. Andy, thank you. Right, let's go back to this. So where are we? Oh, so she says she didn't do that. And Dr. Rogers suggests she went to Nielsen Street, where fungi expert Tom May. Oh gosh, we haven't mentioned Funky Tom for ages. Oh, yeah, join the members, Andy. Yeah, that's it. The members, I thought, hi BF, join the members. I mean, I'm not telling you to join the members. What I'm saying is the members is like the fan club. We have an exclusive live every Thursday. And, you know, there's lots of videos on there that you won't have seen because they're only for members. In fact, if I let's put the... I've got a thing somewhere to be a member. You know, I'm not very good with my admin and things, you know. Yeah, that probably don't know if you can click on that or not. You can't click on that, can you? Sorry, I'm getting completely I think it's up at the top. That's right. Yeah. If you look at the pinned comment, is that it? Yeah. There it is. I'm going to put it in the chat. Yeah, that's really the fan club, isn't it? Yeah, join the members. Okay, where are we now? Let me put that down now. Okay, so going back to it. So she's saying she never went to see where these death cap mushrooms that were put on the iNaturalist site, weren't they? By one of our favourite people involved in this trial. We listened to all the evidence about mushrooms. We know so much more about mushrooms than we did before because Funky Tom the mushroom expert. He let us know all about death cap mushrooms. He gave quite a long testimony, didn't it? Was it 2 days he was on the stand? At least 2 days, maybe even more. And he's the guy that had found the death cap mushrooms, put on the iNaturalist site that there were death cap mushrooms. And then lo and behold, immediately after that, Erin's phone's pinging in the same area. And then immediately after that, she goes off and buys a dehydrator. How odd, what coincidence. So she can't deny buying the dehydrator, but she denies that she was there. Yeah, look, she says, on the same day, she disagrees. Oh no, let's go back. So the prosecutor then puts to Miss Patterson that further mobile phone tower data suggests she went to the Loch Township on the morning of May the 22nd. It looks like I did do that, yes, Miss Patterson says. But she disagrees that she went to the reserve with the purpose of finding death cap mushrooms at the location previously uploaded to the iNaturalist site. On the same day, expert analysis of mobile phone data suggested that Miss Patterson's phone was in the Outram area just before midday. But Miss Patterson says she didn't do that. Dr. Rogers suggests she went to Nielsen Street, where fungi expert Tom May had flagged death cap mushrooms in an iNaturalist pin published the day before. Miss Patterson disagrees with this. The prosecutor asks her again if she went to Outram. I don't believe, how do I put it? I didn't go to Outram to Nielsen. There you go with the word salad. How do I put it? I didn't go to Outram to Nielsen Street, and I don't remember going to Outram as a destination. That's what I'm saying, Miss Patterson says. So did you pass through? Dr. Rogers asked. Well, that is possible because you can pass through Outram on the way to Wonthaggi or Phillip Island, I think it is, she says. Whatever. So we're supposed to believe that she can remember that that date was a Friday, but she can't remember where she passed through or where she exactly went to. So Dr. Rogers suggests that Miss Patterson blitzed up dehydrated death cap mushrooms to a powder before putting them into the Beef Wellingtons to hide them, in a similar way she'd been doing with powdered mushrooms in her children's meals. Disagree, Miss Patterson says. And at this point, the hearing breaks for lunch. Now, I'm not breaking for lunch, but I've got to just have 5 minutes. I've just got to go and do a couple of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the video that you may or may not have seen. Right. There's some strange people in my chat today. Now, the Vicky Marie fan club is not real, Janet, whoever you are. As you know, you are not a member. Nobody is a member because there is not one. Okay? If there is, if you're saying there is, you send me a link for it. But, you know, I think I'm not really sure what it's all about. But if you're going to keep to saying these kind of things, I am going to remove your comments. So I'm just telling you that because you're confusing people and it's just ridiculous. I think, you know, anyway, I don't understand it. So there is no Vicky Marie official fan club. Okay? Or certainly not one that's been created with my permission. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a video that I put up on my channel when I find it, which was the video of Erin being interviewed where she got all the victims' names wrong, just in case you haven't seen it. Let's have a look. Just in case you haven't seen it, but also it could just give me 5-10 minutes to get done what I need to just do, because this is a long video, because she's, you know, there's so much testimony, isn't there? So much testimony. the videos, the lives are taking a long time, so I have to have a little break in between. I've got a couple of things that I've got to do. Oh, hello. Here's the dog. Well, I've got to sort the dog out, you see. Basically, that's what it comes down to. But what I've got to first of all find is this video to put on for you. There, hang on, sorry. It's taking me a while to find it. I should have had it prepared. I wasn't expecting this to go on so long, but they do, because they're doing full days at the moment. They may have, like, Fridays they do half days, and then of course they had a day off on Monday for the bank holiday. But when they're in, they're really in. Where is she? Because I can't find it now. Oh, here it is. Sorry it took so long. So you may have seen this. I don't know if you saw it or not. And I thought, I'll just have a little look back at that interview that. Hey, Chatterate. No, I've been doing a little bit of research. Watching some other sort of programs about the mushroom murder trial that we've been following all these weeks. And I thought, I'll just have a little look back at that interview that Erin gave. It's really the only time that we've seen Erin speak, isn't it? Of course, we've heard her testimony, or heard of her testimony through the trial of the last few days of the trial. But really, this is, I think, the only time that we've seen Erin actually speak herself. So I thought, I'll just have a little watch of that. And, well, let's see. Unbelievable.
It's a tragedy what's happened.
Can you tell us about the meal that you...
Now, there's a lot of rubbing of her eyes and looking at her fingers as if there's tears on there, but there actually are no tears. Now, I know what I think of Erin Patterson, and maybe I'm wrong. She is still innocent. She's not been convicted yet, but there's no tears coming from this woman's eyes. But the most, that's by the by, because who knows how they would act, I suppose, in those circumstances. But she gets all the victims, she gets the victims' names wrong. She gets Don and Ian confused. Very strange. Have a listen.
Of course.
I'm so devastated by what's happened, by the loss of Don. Don is still in hospital, the loss of Ian and Heather.
No, Erin, you were right the first time. She said, the loss of Don, and then she said, no, Don is still in hospital, the loss of Ian. Ian is the survivor. It was Don who had died. Don and Gail who had died, I think. They were the first two to die, and then Heather. But she gets the name wrong. It's bizarre, isn't it? Really? Absolutely bizarre. Look at how her face is there as well. She's very difficult to believe, isn't she? I mean, apart from all the lies she's told anyway, she's told so many lies. She is difficult to believe for that reason. But and this dry crying, you know, and the way she's inspecting her fingers. But the most significant thing to me through this interview is she gets their names mixed up. It's very bizarre.
And Gail, they were some of the best people that I've ever met. Gail was like...
Take your time.
Gail was the mum that I didn't have because my mum passed away 4 years ago. And Gail's never been anything but good and kind to me. And Ian and Heather were some of the best people.
Ian and Heather. But Ian wasn't dead. Ian's the survivor. It's bizarre, isn't it? And she's rubbing away tears that just aren't there. You know, and in fact, when you freeze her face like this, you know, is it just me? Look, I'm sure you'll all let me know what you think in comments.
People I've ever met, they never did anything wrong to me, and I'm so devastated about what's happened.
Can you tell us
and the loss to the community, and to the families, and to my own children who've lost their grandmother.
Can you tell us a bit more about the lunch?
What I can tell you is that I just can't fathom what has happened. I just can't fathom.
She can't fathom what's happened.
What has happened? That Ian and Heather have lost their lives, and Gail has lost her life, and Donna's still in hospital, and I pray.
She did it again.
Lost her life, and Donna's still in hospital, and I pray that Ian and Heather have lost their lives.
Ian and Heather have lost their lives, and Don is still in hospital. How could you get their names mixed up like that? I think that's absolutely bizarre. I can't believe nobody's ever pointed that out. And I can't believe that I didn't notice it before.
And Gail has lost her life, and Donna's still in hospital, and I pray that he pulls through because my children love him.
And you must...
I pray that he pulls through because my children love him. She's talking about Don, the granddad, but he was already dead, and it was Ian who was hanging on, and Ian did survive. Really odd, that.
You're pretty shaken up by this as well.
I'm devastated. I love them. I can't believe that this has happened, and I'm so sorry.
I'm not laughing because I think it's funny. That just, her acting is really bad. Look, is it just me? You tell me what you think. Is there anybody who thinks this is genuine?
That they have lost their lives.
How are you?
I just can't believe it. Just can't believe it.
Can you tell us where the mushrooms came from?
Did it again. So she's like looking at the tears that she hasn't got and wiping her hands, and then she decides she's going. So I look.
Came from?
Believe it.
No,
can you tell us where the mushrooms came from?
Crazy, isn't it?
Were they picked from the property area?
I just ask you to leave me alone now, please.
Police say you're a suspect. Do you have anything to say about that?
I wonder what she's got in her bag, if she's got some mushrooms. She's going in to have a mushroom omelette.
I say I didn't do anything. I love them. And I'm devastated. I hope with every fibre of my being that Don pulls through. That's what I...
Yeah, she's done it again. So that's 3 times now. She's used the wrong name. I hope with every fibre of my being that Don pulls through. Now, okay, the first time could easily be a mistake, couldn't it? You know, especially when you're stressed. But that's 3 times. She's used the wrong names. Don's dead. Don's not going to pull through. It's Ian who's hanging on there. absolutely bizarre, I think. I mean, is it just me?
Where do mushrooms come from? Were they picked by you, or where did they come from, Erin? Can you tell us? What meal did you cook them? Did you eat the same meal, Erin?
Yeah, she's got a bag of shopping there, hasn't she? So I wonder if she's eaten mushrooms since. Are mushrooms off the menu in Erin's house? Anyway, let me know. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, just wanted to put that on while I went and fed the dog and give her a treat. She's just got up, so we have a routine. She has to have a special treat. She has to have a breakfast. She's now lying down next to me because, you know, if you watch my channel, you know we've got the 3 dogs. So now that my dogs have gone upstairs and she's come downstairs for a turn downstairs, haven't you? Hey, yes, you have. Okay, so we're going back to the actual trial now. I just put that on for something. Hey. God. But if the wires come out, because she likes to pull wires out. Hey, move. Come here. Ah. She's looking for a ball, I think. Right. Let's go back. Let me put my picture back on. Let me put my picture back on. God, this dog, honestly. Am I still on? Yeah, I'm still on. You got the washing out, David. I'm just worried now about I can't find where I was because the dog is. Right, what am I trying to do? Oh, I'm trying to change the picture. That's right. I'm trying to put myself back in. There you go. I'm back. Let's go back then to the trial. The hearing broke for lunch. They're just going through questions. So the break is over and we return to the topic of foraging. Now, let's not forget that Erin said initially she never foraged for mushrooms. Oh, now suddenly she's bloody, the top forager in Australia. But originally, when she was first asked, not only by the police, but the hospital, no, I never foraged for mushrooms. No, can't have been foraged mushrooms. Oh, foraged mushrooms? No, I would never forage mushrooms. Now it turns out that Erin knows more about mushrooms than Fungi Tom. Knows much more about mushrooms. She knows more about mushrooms than most people. She loves mushrooms. So the hearing is resumed and lead prosecutor Nanette Rogers is continuing her cross-examination of accused murderer Erin Patterson. And Dr. Rogers indicates she'd like to ask the 50-year-old about foraging for edible mushrooms. And she suggests that Miss Patterson has made new claims to the jury about foraging. What do you mean by new? Miss Patterson asked, in her leery, cocky manner. Dr. Rogers says in her police interview a week after the lunch, Miss Patterson denied foraging for mushrooms, but she has since told the trial that she has foraged. So, got the dog's right here for a little cuddle. I went to click the mouse and the dog's little wet nose, big wet nose was there. Oh, God. You know what? You're trying to distract me, aren't you? So, sorry, I'm going for the siren because here you go, another lie. Yeah, I foraged. No, I didn't forage. Oh, I did. Of course I foraged. Oh, yeah, I know a lot about mushrooms. I don't know anything about death cap mushrooms, though. No. I only know about edible mushrooms. I never picked any death cap mushrooms. No, I only picked edible mushrooms. I've never had a dehydrator. I mean, I could go on, couldn't I? I think one day I'm going to just do a video with all the lies that Erin has told and the siren. Now we're supposed to believe her new things that she says. So Dr. Rogers says in her police interview a week after the lunch, Miss Patterson denied foraging for mushrooms, but has since told the trial she has foraged. Right, listen to this. You know, Vicky Pollard, if any of you out there know about the programme Little Britain, Erin is Vicky Pollard, isn't she? Yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but yeah, but, well, you know. So here's what she says. I told the police that I had never foraged, but I didn't say that to the other witness. I said that I had not put forage mushrooms in the meal. So it's like, okay, whatever Miss Patterson says. And then the hearing resumes at what? Oh, so then so there's quite a lot of interruptions after lunch. The defence objects to the way questions have been posed, and the jury exits the room to allow for a legal discussion. So I think you'll find that what the defence does, and it's their job, of course, to do that, anytime there's anything that they think, oh, God, this looks bad on our client, they object. That's what defences do, and prosecution, of course. You know, anything that affects their case, that's what lawyers do. So the jury exits the room to allow for a legal discussion. Then they come back and Dr. Rogers picks up on a computer seized during a police search of Miss Patterson's home, and specifically the data extracted from the Cooler Master PC, which was found on top of a wardrobe in her son's bedroom. Do you accept that there were no records located on that computer related to edible or non-toxic mushrooms? Dr. Rogers asks, and Miss Patterson's defence barrister, Colin Mandy, objects, and the jury exits the room again. So another legal discussion can take place, and there's a ripple of laughter. They've had quite a few little laughs here and there, haven't they? I don't know what poor Ian makes of that, Ian Wilkinson. The judges cracked a few jokes and about Colin Mandy, the defence lawyer, etc. I don't think Dr. Rogers, Nanette Rogers, she's more of a serious person. But yeah, there have been a few jokey things, which does seem a bit bad, doesn't it? In a triple murder case, you know, I mean, we make jokes and things, but you know, we're a YouTube channel. We're not, you know, we're not a judge, defence barrister, etc. You know, that we're not at the serious end of it, but we're still respectful to the victims. Just seems a bit off me. To me, I don't like the way there's been all these jokey comments have gone through the court. So anyway, a ripple of laughter, as it's noted the jury had only just minutes earlier returned from a break. And of course, there was also on one of the days, again, if you look back through the playlist, you'll see, I can't remember what day it was, because it feels like there's been like 237 days of this trial so far, but not, only 30 really. We say only 30, that's a long trial. You know, trials don't often last that long, do they? But I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, so there was one day a protester came in and started protesting, not against Erin or anything to do with the trial, but against the judge, you know, the Judge Beale. Someone came in and protested against him, which, you know, let's have a little look. Do you know what I need to find is a picture of Judge Beale in his wig, because the only picture I've got of Justice Beale, and I've looked, obviously, when I was looking for a picture of him to put up every now and again, I would really like a photo of him with his wig on, you know, looking like a judge. But the only, God, I can't even find the other photo now. Now, come on. Oh, there. Yeah, because he doesn't look like a judge. I mean, he's quite young, isn't he, for a judge, but also because he hasn't got his wig on. I'm going to try and see if I can find, maybe I'll have to put a wig on him, a judge's wig, you know, not a pink wig or anything. But yeah, there was a demonstration against him, which we've never got to find out what it was. Some guy stood up in the courtroom and in a high-vis jacket and started attacking him and everything, but we've never found out really what that was about. But yeah, I will try and find a picture of him in his wig. So yeah, so comes back and then goes out again, just as they're about to start about the computers. Then they come back and Dr. Rogers turns to the book. Oh, so listen to this. Dr. Rogers turns to the books in Miss Patterson's house, while which the prosecutor says were examined and catalogued by the police during a search. And Dr. Rogers asks if Erin accepts that not one of the 423 books in Miss Patterson's home were about foraging. Now, nothing wrong with having 423 books in your house. If you've got a house big enough to, big enough to actually hold 423 books. I mean, in the years before I got into YouTube, I did used to read a lot. I've got to hold my hand up and say, probably now in my house, there may be 20 books maximum. Whereas there was a time there was never 423, but I haven't got room for 423. Probably when I lived in the UK and I didn't have any children and I had room to put books, and I was at university and I used to buy, I used to love books. I had loads of books for my degree because it wasn't, I was studying politics and I found it interesting. So it wasn't like reading an educational book that was boring or whatever. I loved it. All the books I had, I loved them and found them all interesting. But since I've sort of, the past 10 years, probably, you're getting to watch, I'm more likely to listen to things on a podcast now, listen to books, audio books, etc. It's rare for me to read a book now, to actually read a book. I read the internet. I think a lot of us are probably the same. And then, of course, Kindles came in. So a lot of people read on their Kindles, don't they? Don't actually read books, because although I love a book, I prefer a book to Kindle because I like to have the book physically in my hands. And like you can flick back to the bit you've missed, or you think, oh, who is that character? And you flick back. Of course, books are heavy. If you're going on holiday, it's much better to take a Kindle with you. You can have like 423 books on your Kindle. Can't carry 423 books around with you. But anyway, let me know how you are with books. Have you changed? Do you like reading books, or have you changed now? Is it Kindle, or don't you read anymore like me? I used to read so much. Anyway, so I do still read, but I read the internet. So I'm normally on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or reading all sorts of things, news articles, researching my videos. But not Erin. So Erin had 423 books that were registered when the police registered or logged in. And not one of them, according to Miss Rogers, or Dr. Rogers, I should say, not one of them was about foraging. And Miss Patterson replies, she's not gone through the several thousand books in her home to check if any are about foraging, but she says some are about gardening. She's a sarcastic twonk, isn't she, Twonkess? I've not gone through the several thousand books in my home to check if any are about foraging. Well, you'd know if you had a book about foraging or not. You'd just know, wouldn't you? If somebody said to me, have you got a book about foraging? I'd say, no, I know I haven't. Even when I had loads of books, I knew what books I had. If I had a cookery book, or if I had books on crime, or if you had autobiographies, or whatever the books were, I used to like series of books and things. I knew what books I had, but Erin can't remember what books she's had because it doesn't suit her to remember. So she probably hasn't got books on foraging because, she's probably looked it up on the internet. You don't need to have a book these days, do you? If you wanted to find out if death cap mushrooms were grown near you, you just go on Mr. Google, wouldn't you? You wouldn't need a book on it. So Dr. Rogers says she will offer Miss Patterson a log of books in her house that was compiled by the police. And there must be 423 of them. And Miss Patterson says, I've seen that log, it's not complete. And Miss Patterson says when the police searched her home on August the 5th, she hadn't unpacked all of her books onto the shelves, and several were in tubs in her garage. Did they not go through her garage then? Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to... The electric keeps flicking off and flicking back on again, so I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't go off. I've just turned the aircon off. Now, did the police... I mean, I do feel that maybe the police didn't do the best job they could have done by searching. We saw that when the police detective was speaking. There were some things that you think, oh, did they go through her home enough? But there was a lot in her home, wasn't there? So, and I think initially they probably weren't thinking that she would actually have murdered these people. But I don't know. So she says that she hadn't unpacked all of her books. So 423 books were logged, but that wasn't all her books. And she says over August, September and October, she went through and put them on the shelves, adding hundreds to those that were on the shelves on August the 5th. But Dr. Rogers asks if Miss Patterson accepts that on August the 5th, no book about mushrooms was found. Sorry, I just can't believe we're having this in-depth conversation about mushrooms. So that'll be right. Miss Patterson responds, no book about mushrooms was found in her house. So I'm not sure what Dr. Rogers is trying to get at here. Is she trying to show that actually Erin, wasn't into foraging, or that she was into foraging? So what is she trying to get at, do you think? What do you think? What do you think the prosecution is trying to get at here? I wonder. Oh, my white wig is in the bin. I need to get another wig, for members' lives, for the fun lives. Yeah. I don't know. You let me know. What do you think the prosecution are trying to get at here? Because you know that the prosecution, when they ask a question, it's because they already know the answer, and also they're trying to get at something. So she's building up to something, isn't she? But I'm not sure what she's trying to... What will it say that Erin doesn't have books on foraging? I wonder. I think what Dr. Rogers is trying to say is Erin wasn't interested in foraging mushrooms. She was only interested in the death cap mushrooms. Maybe that's what she's trying to say. She's not a mushroom forager where she's interested in all the other mushrooms. Oh, I think that's right, actually, because I think later maybe she says that because Erin's children said they had never gone foraging for mushrooms with their mum. So Erin was trying to say, oh, yeah, we were always going foraging for mushrooms. Trying to say that wasn't a special thing for the death cap mushrooms. I think this is what Dr. Rogers is building up to say, look, you weren't interested in foraging in general. Some people love foraging mushrooms, or not only mushrooms, just foraging, don't they? And I think what Dr. Rogers is probably building up to is you're not a forager. You just wanted the death cap mushrooms, and you wanted them for a specific purpose, which was to kill these poor people. I think that might be it, but we'll see. Dr. Rogers then asked Miss Patterson about a phone she'd used to communicate with her Facebook friends, which was seized and examined by police. And the prosecutor says there were no messages in the logs taken from the phone about picking and eating wild mushrooms. That would be right, Miss Patterson says. Miss Patterson has previously told the court her children definitely saw what I was doing. So again, we're coming up to yet another one of those lovely lies from Erin, because Erin is saying that her children are not telling the truth, or they're telling untruths, or they're mistaken. Because her children said they'd never gone foraging with Erin, and she's saying that's not true. Because she said the children definitely saw what she was doing when she had picked mushrooms on previous occasions. And Miss Patterson objects to Dr. Rogers describing it as going mushroom picking. She tells the court it's not like she ever woke up and said, I'm going to go mushroom picking. She would just pick them while on walks. Well, I don't think that Erin went for that many walks, though, did she? Did she go for regular walks in the woods? I don't know. Dr. Rogers takes Miss Patterson to evidence from her own son, who told police he had never been aware of his mother picking mushrooms. And Dr. Rogers said, I suggest that your son never knew you to go foraging, because foraging for non-toxic mushrooms was not something you did. Disagree, Miss Patterson says. I suggest that your children never knew you to pick wild mushrooms. That's because you did not go foraging for non-toxic mushrooms. This is a story that you have made up for this jury. And Miss Patterson disagrees with those three propositions. She then takes Miss Patterson to phone messages between her and her estranged husband, Simon Patterson, over an 18-month period. There is not a single message about you at picking wild mushrooms. Sorry. Just the thought of Erin going out picking mushrooms. Do you agree with that? Dr. Rogers asks. I haven't done my own keyword search on that, but I'm prepared to accept that it's true if you say that, Miss Patterson says. Whatever. Let's just have another look at Simon, because we've not looked at him for a while, just to remind you of her estranged husband. Simon Patterson, who escaped being poisoned because he decided not to go to the lunch, but it seems that at many points Simon had been ill, and it is thought it's possible that there may have been attempts to poison Simon before, allegedly, but those charges were dropped. So don't forget that Simon is Erin's estranged husband, and these people who died, Don and Gail is his mother and father, and Heather is Gail's sister, his auntie, and Ian, who survived, is her husband. Yeah. Erin. What is going on in that mind of Erin's? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If only you could see. Wouldn't it be great if we literally... The trouble with truth and lies is, we really don't know whether people are telling the truth or lying. We get feelings, but they are only feelings at the end of the day. And, even body language experts, as they call themselves, they don't know for certain. You can't go into court and say, I just knew they were lying because of the way, they shrugged the shoulder, or they gulped, or, the look on the face. It doesn't hold up in court, does it? It's only evidence holds up in court, but we do, obviously, we get our feelings, we have our opinions, but it would be great if we literally could tell, wouldn't it, when someone was lying? How brilliant would that be? God, it'd just make life so much easier, wouldn't it? So there is not a single message about you picking wild mushrooms. Do you agree with that? And she said, I'm prepared to accept that it's true if you say that. Then Erin is shown pictures of mushrooms in her dehydrator, which appear to be mushroom pieces on the racks. And the photo was taken on April the 30th, 2023. So this is 2 days after she bought the dehydrator. And then, of course, isn't that 2 days after her phone placed her in the area where the death cap mushrooms were? It's all too many coincidences, isn't it? Dr. Rogers puts to Miss Patterson that she was testing the dehydrator by dehydrating the button mushrooms. And Erin says, I don't really understand the question. I dehydrated the mushrooms to eat them. Another image dated May the 4th is shown to the court. It shows mushroom pieces on a tray from the dehydrator balanced over scales, and the prosecutor suggests that these mushrooms are death cap mushrooms, and Miss Patterson dehydrated them after practicing on the button mushrooms because she did not want to waste the death caps. And Miss Patterson disagrees. So what's important to remember is death caps, all mushrooms, in fact, wild mushrooms, they're not just available all year like they are in Tesco's. You know, it's like they only grow certain times of the year, maybe twice a year when the conditions are right. So if Erin wanted, she would have had to dehydrate them because they don't last, you know, forever, even in the fridge or whatever, you know, not going to last, could be months before she needed to use them. So dehydrating them, that was a way of having them dried, and then she could use them whenever she was ready to use them, couldn't she? So, you know, that's how it seems to me anyway. More questions on foraging. Dr. Rogers puts to Miss Patterson that her claim she had foraged for mushrooms was a lie that she'd come up with to try and explain why she put foraged death cap mushrooms in the meal she served up. And she suggested that you realised, I suggest, that your previous claim about buying mushrooms from an Asian grocer did not fit the evidence against you. At some point, you realised the lie you told police about not foraging for wild mushrooms did not stack up. And Miss Patterson disagrees with those propositions. Oh, now we're going to go to this bypass surgery. So just a reminder to anybody who doesn't know, I mean, oh my God, just gets more and more complex, doesn't it? So don't forget, Ian Wilkinson, the guy who survived the lunch, he said that at the lunch, his testimony was that at the lunch, Erin said she had cancer. That's why she'd pulled them up, got them all together, because she'd got cancer. She wanted to know how to tell the children. So they all sympathised with her. They all felt sorry for her. At the end of the lunch, they all prayed for her. You know, that was Ian's testimony. Erin says it's not true. She never said she had cancer. She only said she had suspected cancer. And then she admits that she actually lied completely because, in fact, she was going to have gastric bypass surgery because she suffered from bulimia when she was a kid. She's always had problems with her body image, etc., with her weight. And she was considering gastric bypass, but she was too embarrassed to tell them it was a gastric bypass she was going to have. So she told them instead, like you do, instead of saying she was going to have a gastric bypass, she thought, oh, I know, I'll tell them that I've got cancer instead. So that's what she did. So that was a lie in itself. God, where's that bloody siren? I'm going to need that a lot for this. So that was a lie in itself, you know, saying to them that she had cancer, though she says she did say she had cancer, she only had suspected cancer, and then saying, no, I just was too embarrassed saying I was going to have a gastric bypass. So she gets a siren, But then now it turns out that the place that she said she was going to have gastric bypass surgery, they don't do gastric bypass surgery. So she wasn't going to, if that's not true either, even, the thing is she lies about a lie, and then the lie that she's lying about the lie is a lie as well. You can't keep up with Erin's lies. So then she said, oh, maybe it wasn't gastric bypass surgery. Maybe it was liposuction. And maybe I got them mixed up. Right? So that's the second lie, or is it the third? I've lost track. Now you're going to see that, in fact, Dr. Rogers finds out they don't do any sort of weight reduction surgery at the clinic that Erin said that she went to. So the cancer was a lie. The gastric bypass was a lie. And the liposuction was a lie. But she's telling the truth now, though. She's telling the truth now, yeah. Oh, yeah, she told a few books, but everything she says now is the truth. Honest, Your Honour. What a horrible woman she is. So now she has to concede that this Melbourne clinic that she says she was going to does not offer gastric bypass surgery. So the prosecutor then turns to Miss Patterson's earlier evidence that she had an appointment in September 2023 at Enrich Clinic in Melbourne about gastric bypass surgery. Now, don't forget, she'd already told the poor Gail, who is now dead, who was poisoned, she'd already told her that she'd had to have a biopsy, which she never had to have. She said she was waiting for an MRI, which she wasn't. You can't even count this woman's lies. We all tell little porcupines here and there, white lies. I don't think there's probably any of us that have never told any kind of lie, but not these sort of serious lies. So Miss Patterson had told the court she didn't disclose this to the lunch guests because she was embarrassed, but instead she let them believe there was treatment she might require for ovarian cancer. I mean, how awful to lie about having cancer. I just think that anyone who genuinely has cancer or knows someone who has cancer or has had cancer, cancer affects 1 in 3 people. So I think everybody who's reading that will either have had cancer themselves or, know someone very close to them who has had it, and maybe they've survived it, maybe they haven't. So it's offensive to everybody to lie about having cancer, isn't it? So she said she let them believe there was treatment she might require for ovarian cancer in the future. So she knew they'd be there to help with the kids if she underwent a surgery. And Dr. Rogers says yesterday she put to Miss Patterson that the cosmetic clinic does not offer gastric bypass procedures. The prosecutor then notes Miss Patterson has been given a statement from Enrich Clinic dated yesterday, which outlined some records relating to her. Miss Patterson then says she accepts the clinic does not offer and has never offered gastric bypass surgery, pre-surgery appointments related to it, and in fact only conducts procedures related to the skin and its appendages, such as hair and nails. So there you go, another bloody great big massive lie. Trouble is, she could be so clever in some ways, but she's not clever in her lies, is she? At least she could have thought of a clinic that actually did do gastric bypasses, but she chose the name of a clinic that doesn't. I think the problem with Erin is she is a thicko, but she thinks everybody else are thick as well, doesn't she? She thinks they won't look into things. Anyway, then Dr. Rogers takes Miss Patterson to the medical records obtained by the police. She thinks the police are thickos as well, which had no mention of weight loss surgery or treatments. So, did she think the police wouldn't check up on it? So if you're on trial for murder, triple murder and attempted murder, did she think, and you say, oh, well, I had this appointment at a clinic, she thought the police would not check up on it? So the medical records have no mention of weight loss surgery or treatments, and the prosecutor suggests that Miss Patterson never sought or obtained a referral to a specialist who could perform a gastric bypass. And she says, now listen, you talk about yeah, but no, but. Yeah, but no, but. Yes, I never got anything like that from a GP, no. Yes, I never got anything like that from a GP, no. Yeah, but no, but, yeah, but no, but, says Vicky Pollard. She is Erin Patterson, aka Vicky Pollard. Yeah, but no, but, well, whatever. So the prosecution then moves question into the reason why Miss Patterson's children were absent from the deadly Beef Wellington lunch. Dr. Rogers then takes Miss Patterson back through her past evidence, where she said she told her daughter about the lunch beforehand and offered for her to come, but her daughter was more excited about seeing a movie without adults present. And the prosecutor suggests that's actually not what she told her daughter. She takes Miss Patterson to her daughter's account to police of the conversation where her mum told her the lunch was coming up. And she said, I'm pretty sure she said that she wanted to have lunch with Don, Gail, Heather and Ian. And she wanted to talk to them about adult stuff. And we were going to go to the movies together. Miss Patterson's daughter told the police. So her own daughter told the police that her mum said she didn't want her to be at the lunch because they were going to talk about children things. Adult things. So they didn't want children there. Hi, Excel. Hope I haven't missed anyone coming in. I don't think I have. Sorry, I haven't been in the chat for a while, so I'm just make sure I haven't missed anyone coming in. Yeah, everyone's a liar except Erin, apparently. So, Miss Patterson's daughter told the police that she said, I'm pretty sure she wanted to have lunch with Don, Gail, Heather and Ian, and she wanted to talk to them about adult stuff. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because Erin, herself, though as she actually admitted it, Ian said that she wanted them to be there to talk in private, didn't she? So then Erin says, no, I didn't really put it like that to my daughter at all. I mean, that in itself, she's not even saying I didn't put it like that to my I didn't really. When people say not really, there's always room, isn't there, for manoeuvre there. So Miss Patterson's son gave a similar account where he recalled his mother telling him she wanted the lunch to be just the 5 adults. So they both lie in. Miss Patterson also says that's not what she remembers. And Dr. Rogers says, I suggest your story about your daughter wanting to see a movie is a lie. And the truth is, I suggest you wanted them out of the way because you did not want them anywhere near what you were going to serve your guests. And Miss Patterson disagrees with that. So finally, gosh, this was a long session, wasn't it? A computer issue brings today's hearing to an end. Dr. Rogers then turns to the topic. So don't forget, Miss Patterson or Erin, she said she had 3. So she said she only ate half the beef Wellington. But the other guests, even the deceased guests, because their testimony that was taken before they died, said that Erin ate all her beef Wellington. but Erin said she didn't eat it all. She only ate about half of it. But then she had 3 portions of an orange cake and threw up. This again is a reason that Erin's giving for not being that ill as the other people, isn't it? So Dr. Rogers then turns to the topic of Miss Patterson describing eating 2/3 of an orange cake left behind after the lunch and then vomiting. And when asked if she's telling the jury she vomited up the beef Wellington, Miss Patterson says she was asked this yesterday, and her evidence remains that she couldn't be sure what was in the vomit. So then a computer issue is identified, and the hearing comes to an end early. Early, my God, it's gone on forever, it feels like. And that was the end of the evidence for that day, thank goodness. So, yeah, it's been pretty intense, isn't it? So, you know, they might have had a day off, an early day on Friday and a day off on Monday. But they've certainly made up for it in these past couple of days. Been very intense evidence, hasn't it? Very, very intense evidence. So, yeah, there's a little summary. I'm not going to go through it because we've been through it. Also, that concludes today's coverage, and tomorrow more. Mañana más. Can you believe it's still going on right into the 7th week? And you know what? We have not even got to the actual day itself as far as the cross-examination is concerned. We've not even arrived at the day of the lunch and that sort of thing. So you feel like there's quite a lot still to, you know, still to come. And of course, this was all set up by the fact that Erin decided to give evidence. And how long is this going to go on with? That was a long one. Gosh. God, just was a long one. It's exhausting, this. It's like, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to stop covering this case. I'm going to cover it right to the end. What will I do with myself then? What will I do with myself in the morning? But, you know, it's taken up a lot of time, hasn't it? And it's all really, because I think this, obviously, it would have all be over with by now if Erin wouldn't have decided to, you know, give evidence. And yeah, will the jury remember everything Excel right from the beginning? You know, there's such a lot to remember, isn't it? I mean, you can't remember it. God, things come up. You think, oh yeah, remember that. It's been so much. There was so much expert evidence, the mushroom evidence, the data, the intensive care, the doctors. Oh God, you know, it's just, you know, when you go into a 7-week trial with all this expert evidence, and now with Erin's evidence and now the cross-examination, there's so, you know, the jury are probably going home absolutely knackered, aren't they? Yes. I wonder what, I don't know how Stefan's trial is going to go, because anyway, we'll find out in time, in due course. But again, so just before I finish, what I do want to say, as always, is, I want to say thank you to Andy, who sent me a super sticker, who wanted to join the Vicky Marie fan club. Never mind. Best thing to do is join the members. Thank you to Andy for sending that, and thank you, of course, to all of you for caring about these people, because this is the crux of this case. 4 people, healthy people, went to lunch, looked forward to that lunch, went to lunch with that woman, Lady Macbeth. And that's how she reminds me of, Lady Macbeth. And they didn't know what was waiting for them. You know, this delicious meal, that Erin cooked for them, and 3 of them didn't survive it, and Ian has survived after a very traumatic time. He's got to sit through this woman's crap. I wonder what he makes of it all. I wonder what he makes of it all. You know, having to sit there and listen to what she's saying. Listen to her actually refuting what he said. You know, terrible. You know, I really am starting to, I mean, I can't say I ever thought much of her, but, you know, I don't know. But I'm starting to really dislike her now, like get really angry towards her. Because the more lies that come out and the more she's accusing other people of not telling the truth, the more leery she's being to everybody. You know, she thinks she's so clever, but she's actually not clever at all. She's not a super sleuth. She made many, many mistakes, and she's going to pay for them, I think. Certainly hope so. Yeah, I just, you know, I just don't like this woman. And you know, it occurred to me, I think she's probably enjoying this trial and everything, because she's a super sleuth. She likes all the true crime, doesn't she, and everything, and she's probably trying to outwit like the prosecutor, and you know, she's saying that she doesn't, I don't really remember, or can't remember, yeah, but no, but yeah, but can't remember. And then the prosecutor says one day that she gets wrong, and Erin goes, oh no, that wasn't Monday, it was a Friday or whatever. She remembered that exactly, because she does remember things. She forgets things only when it suits her. That's what I think. Anyway, that's just my opinion. And as I say, since this trial started, I haven't changed my mind to feel like I was wrong about Erin in the beginning. I feel like I was completely right about her. But there you go. Okay, yes, all off for lunch now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about these victims. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Don't forget to please subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Don't forget to leave your fingerprint on the like button. I'll see you really soon in the next video. I'll definitely be back tomorrow for the next installment of this trial. If not, I expect I'll be back before that in some way, shape or form. And take care. Remember, you are the most important person. And until I see you again, as always, may your God go with you. Thank you.